This video is for educational purposes only and is not financial advice. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Everyone's financial situation is different, so please consult with a qualified professional before making any investment decisions. Imagine two people sitting side by side in the same office, doing the exact same job, earning identical salaries of $60,000 a year. They both work for 30 years. They both contribute to their 401k accounts. But when they hit retirement at age 65, something shocking happens. Sarah opens her retirement account statement and sees $1.2 million staring back at her. Michael, her colleague who sat 3 desks away, opens his statement and his stomach drops. $400,000. That's it. Same job, same salary, same company. But an $800,000 difference in their retirement accounts. How is that even possible? The answer is going to terrify you, because Michael didn't do anything wrong. He didn't gamble his money away, he didn't make risky investments, he simply made 7 invisible mistakes that millions of Americans are making right now without even knowing it. And according to recent studies, these mistakes are costing the average worker over $300,000 in lifetime retirement savings. That's enough money to fund 6 additional years of comfortable retirement. So if you have a 401k, you need to pay attention right now, because one of these mistakes could be quietly sabotaging your entire financial future. Mistake number 1. Not maximizing your employer match. Let's start with the biggest mistake that's costing people a fortune. Your employer match is literally free money sitting on the table, and millions of workers are walking right past it. Here's how it works. Let's say your company offers a 4% match on your 401k contributions. That means for every dollar you put in, up to 4% of your salary, your employer matches it dollar for dollar. It's a 100% return on your investment instantly. You cannot get that anywhere else. Not in the stock market, not in real estate, nowhere. But here's the problem. A recent Vanguard study found that only 54% of employees are contributing enough to capture their full employer match. That means nearly half of all workers are leaving free money on the table. Let's do the math on what that actually costs you. If you're earning $60,000 a year and your employer offers a 4% match, that's $2,400 a year you're missing out on. But it gets worse, because it's not just about that 1 year, it's about 30 years of compound growth. Over a 30-year career, if you miss out on a 4% employer match on a $60,000 salary with an average 7% annual return, you're losing over $300,000. That's not an exaggeration. That's basic compound interest doing its magic, except you're not there to receive it. And here's the punch in the gut. That money costs you nothing extra. You just have to contribute enough to trigger the match. But because people set their contribution rates at 2 or 3% instead of the required amount, they're essentially burning money every single paycheck. Mistake number 2. Cashing out your 401k when switching jobs. Now let's talk about mistake number 2. And this one is absolutely devastating because it feels harmless in the moment. You switch jobs. Maybe you're starting fresh. Maybe you need some cash. And you see that $5,000 balance sitting in your old employer's 401k and you think, I'll just cash it out. Big mistake. Massive mistake. Here's what actually happens to that money. First, the IRS immediately withholds 20% for taxes. That's $1,000 gone right off the top. But wait, it gets worse. If you're under 59 and a half years old, you also get hit with a 10% early withdrawal penalty. That's another $500. So your $5,000 withdrawal just became $3,400 in your pocket. You just lost $1,600 to taxes and penalties instantly. But the real damage isn't even that. The real devastation is the opportunity cost of lost compound growth. That $5,000, if you had rolled it over to your new employer's 401k or an IRA and let it grow at an average 7% annual return for 30 years, would have turned into over $38,000. You traded $38,000 for $3,400. That's insane. And according to a study from Capitalize, there are over 29 million forgotten 401k accounts in America, totaling $1.7 trillion. People are cashing out and walking away from their financial futures because they don't understand the math. Stop doing this. Roll it over. Keep it invested. Your future self will thank you. Mistake number 3. Investing too heavily in company stock. Mistake number 3 is putting too much of your retirement savings into your own company's stock. This one feels good because you believe in your company. You work there. You see the growth. You want to bet on that success. But here's the brutal truth. This is one of the riskiest things you can do with your retirement money, and history has proven it over and over again. Remember Enron? When that company collapsed in 2002, 62% of the assets in the Enron 401k plan were invested in Enron stock. Thousands of employees lost not just their jobs, but their entire retirement savings in one catastrophic event. Your paycheck and your retirement should never be tied to the same company's fate. That's called concentration risk, and it's a recipe for disaster. The Financial Industry Regulatory Authority recommends not holding more than 10 to 20% of your 401k in your own company's stock. Why? Because if your company runs into trouble, you're getting hit twice. You could lose your job, which means your income disappears. And simultaneously, your retirement savings could evaporate. That's a double knockout that can destroy decades of financial progress. Diversification isn't just some fancy investment term. It's survival. You need to spread your money across different companies, different sectors, different asset classes. If your 401k is loaded with company stock right now, you need to rebalance immediately. Sell some of that stock and move it into diversified funds. Protect yourself from the nightmare scenario where your company goes under and takes your retirement with it. Mistake number 4. Not knowing what you're invested in. Let's move to mistake number 4, and this one is shockingly common. Most people have absolutely no idea what their 401k is actually invested in. They signed up when they got hired, checked a few boxes, and never looked at it again. That's a gigantic problem. Many employees accept the default investment option when they enroll, which is usually a target date fund. Target date funds automatically adjust your asset allocation as you get closer to retirement, shifting from aggressive growth to conservative income. They're not bad, but they're not one-size-fits-all. And here's what really matters: fees. The average expense ratio for equity mutual funds is 1.24%, but 401k participants who pay attention to their investments are paying an average of just 0.39%. Why does that matter? Because fees are silent killers. A Government Accountability Office analysis found that someone who invests $20,000 every year for 20 years in a 401k plan that costs 1.5% per year will end up with 17% less than someone whose plan costs just 0.5%. After 20 years, that half a percentage point difference equals more than $10,000 lost. You need to review your 401k at least twice a year. Log into your account. Look at what funds you're invested in. Check the expense ratios. Read your annual fee disclosure statement that your plan is required to send you. If your fees are high and you can't change the investment options, consider investing just enough to get your employer match and then putting additional savings into a low-cost IRA. Knowledge is power, and ignorance in this case is costing you thousands. Mistake number 5. Failing to increase contributions when your salary increases. Mistake number 5 is subtle but absolutely brutal over time. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's quietly stealing your retirement security. Here's how it happens. You get a raise. Maybe you go from $60,000 a year to $66,000. That's a 10% bump. You're excited. You celebrate. And then, without even thinking about it, you start spending that extra money. Better apartment, nicer car, more dinners out. Your lifestyle inflates to match your new income. But here's the problem. Your 401k contribution stays exactly the same. You were contributing 6% when you made $60,000, and you're still contributing 6% now that you make $66,000. That sounds fine, right? Wrong. Because while your dollar contribution went up slightly, your savings rate as a portion of your growing income stayed flat, and that has massive consequences over time. A Vanguard study found that 55% of job switchers continue to reduce their 401k contribution rate after getting a raise. And this behavior can cost you $300,000 over a career with 8 job changes. That's staggering. The solution is simple but requires discipline. Every time you get a raise, increase your 401k contribution by at least 1%. Many plans offer automatic annual increases that bump your contribution rate by 1% each year. Turn that feature on if your employer offers it. Make your retirement savings grow with your income, not just your spending. Mistake number 6. Maxing out too early and missing per paycheck matches. Now here's a mistake that only affects high earners, but if it applies to you, it's costing you thousands every single year. It's called maxing out too early, and it happens when you contribute so much to your 401k early in the year that you hit the annual contribution limit before December. In 2026, the employee contribution limit is $24,500 if you're under 50, and $32,500 if you're 50 or older. Let's say you're aggressive and you max out your contributions by August. Great discipline, right? Not necessarily. Here's the problem. Some employers match contributions on a per-paycheck basis, not annually. So if you stop contributing in August because you hit the max, your employer stops matching too. You just lost 4 months of free employer match money. Some companies offer what's called a true-up contribution, which means they'll reconcile your match at the end of the year and make up any difference. But not all companies do this. You need to check your summary plan description to see if your employer offers true-up contributions. If they don't, you need to spread your contributions evenly across all 12 months to capture the maximum employer match. Losing even $3,000 of match money per year over a 30-year career with compound growth could cost you over $300,000. Don't let aggressive saving backfire on you. Mistake number 7. Taking early withdrawals or loans. And finally, mistake number 7. Borrowing from your 401k or taking early withdrawals. This is one of the most damaging financial moves you can make, but it's tempting because the money is right there and the process is easy. According to a 2024 study, almost half of full-time workers who took a loan from their retirement accounts expressed regret. Here's why. When you borrow $5,000 from your 401k and the market experiences an 8% gain that year, you just missed out on $400 in potential earnings. But over time, when you factor in compounding growth, those missed gains become devastating. That $5,000 loan could have grown to over $38,000 in 30 years. But it gets worse. If you take a 401k loan and then leave your job, most plans require you to repay the entire loan immediately. If you can't, the unpaid balance becomes taxable income, and if you're under 59.5, you also pay a 10% early withdrawal penalty. Suddenly you're facing a massive tax bill on money you already spent. And here's the double tax trap. When you repay a 401k loan, you're using after-tax dollars. Then when you withdraw that money in retirement, you pay taxes on it again. You're literally paying taxes twice on the same money. The only time a 401k loan makes sense is if you're facing a true financial emergency and you have absolutely no other options. Otherwise, leave that money alone and let compound interest work its magic. The solution framework, your action plan. So what do you do now? Here's your step-by-step action plan. First, calculate your employer match formula and make sure you're contributing enough to capture every single dollar. Second, set up automatic 1% annual increases to your contribution rate so your savings grow with your income. Third, review your 401k investment allocations right now and make sure you're not overexposed to company stock. Diversify immediately if you are. Fourth, log into your account and check your expense ratios and fees. If they're above 0.5%, see if you have lower cost options available. Fifth, if you're a high earner, check whether your employer offers true-up contributions, and if they don't, spread your contributions across the full year. Sixth, commit right now to never cashing out a 401k when you switch jobs. Always roll it over. And seventh, avoid 401k loans unless it's an absolute last resort emergency. Here's the bottom line. Avoiding these 7 mistakes is often more valuable than chasing higher investment returns. You can't control the stock market, but you can control your behavior. Sarah and Michael earned the same salary and worked the same number of years, but Sarah paid attention to these details and ended up with $800,000 more in retirement. That's the difference between struggling in your golden years and living the retirement you actually dreamed about. Don't let invisible mistakes rob you of your financial future. Take action today, because 30 years from now, you'll either thank yourself or regret ignoring this. The choice is yours.